Hi, this is the second InchViz presentation, and this one's called Dating Skills for Engineers. Originally, I called it Entrepreneurship Fundamental Skills, but the professor who was sponsoring this, Chris Waltham, said, hey, this is more like dating skills. And so here goes. Engineering life is project-driven. We're always building lots of things. It's people-driven because there's loads of people. And so, what does a project look like? Well, it looks crazy. There's all sorts of things. When I look at this chart, the first thing I see mentors, but then there's research and there's customer creation, company building. There's just all sorts of things going on. And so trying to get a grip on it is one of the challenges. And so it's always stormy. It's just rough. It's tough. There's more to do than you can handle. And so there's always fun things to talk about this. So in Austin Kleon's book, he steals this thing from his friend Marine. It's the life of a project. And, it starts with the best idea ever. And then it gets down to the dark night of the soul, and then, it finishes. So it's kind of like honeymoon phase, pit of despair, and coming out. And one of the startup people, I think this is Y Combinator type thing, you got the honeymoon phase at the beginning, and then the novelty wears off, and then, it just goes down and all sorts of stuff. And then eventually, years later, things go up. And so this is your environment. You're really living in that trough there, and you got to find out a way to stay happy while you're doing that, because work is emotional. And so I talk about that as persistence, grit, and cheer. You got to find a way to be cheerful in that, because that's the world you live in. It's not going to be honeymoon phase all the time. Things don't work, and making them work is the challenge. So let's work on delivering cheer. And so the four things I'm going to cover today are really how to communicate, how to listen, how to help. Helping out is difficult, and that's actually one of the more unique things in this. And I love Don't Be an Asshole. That's a great book, and for technical people, we all know that person, and often we are that person. And so we have to learn how to catch that and don't do it. And we're always in a stressful environment, and that's one of the things you have to know, is that it's not an easy environment. And so the other thing is you're an undergrad and you can do this now. These things, you don't need to be in a working environment. These things all help us today. You can make the difference in these things right away. So communicating, there's this book called Made to Stick. It had this great orange cover. And the first books actually did come with a duct tape on it. And they talk about the key points of creating a presentation. And so 5 of those are pretty obvious. Make something simple, tell it as a story, make it emotional. But the big thing is it has to be unexpected. Because if you're saying something the other person expects, they just say, hey, I knew that, and you're out. So you have to find a way to say something unexpected. So which is tough for some people, because a lot of engineers are introverts and they don't want to be noticed. But you have to say something unexpected. That's the key to being heard. And so we're about violating norms, for the key thing. And the other thing this book talks about is market positioning. And so it really talks about, are you in, are you out, and how to make that clear. And that's a really important thing to do, because a lot of people want it to be blurry. And to get someone's attention, you have to make things black and white, at least for the discussion part. And one of the other key insights of this book is it's impossible to imagine what lack of knowledge is like. So once you get it, you got it, but the other people don't. And so often it takes a journey to get people into that. So you have to know that people take time to get things. And so, that's one of those things that you just have to know. The curse of knowledge is a big thing. And so, you can read this later. But so the next one is listening. And What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshal Goldsmith has a beautiful chapter on listening. And I'm going to go through a few of the bits of that right now with you. And the thing he talks about is it's make the other person feel important. It's not about you. You want to listen first. And so it's really the questions you ask the other person that are the most important part. Because most of the time we want to sit there and tell the other person something, but that person wants to do the same with you. And so, being a good listener is a big deal. And so you really have to think before you speak, listen with respect, and ask yourself, is it worth it for me to say this at that moment? Is it worth it? And yeah, I'm going to just stop there. So listening tactics, don't interrupt, don't use the word no, but, or however. Just remember, and just think about this in your day-to-day after you listen to this presentation. When you hear someone tell you no, but, or however, they're always changing what you think. And, they always say something like, I knew that, But you know how bad that feels. And so one of the key things that you can do to make your listening so much better is don't use no, but, or however. You try to use and don't say I knew that, because the other person is trying to connect with you, and saying I knew that makes you superior. You just say, yeah, okay. So, he talks about these real extremes, or don't even agree with the other person, even if you praise them, because sometimes they just are too stressed out. They just want you to be there with them. So don't be distracted. Don't, let your eyes wander. Pay attention to the other person. And so, basically I already went through this listening tactics, or the things to do. And so the paradox is the more you subsume your desire to shine, the more you're going to shine in the other person's eyes. They really don't want to hear you talk. And so you have to kind of practice doing this quite a bit. But it's quite amazing how you can get far doing that. So in my experience, if the other person feels heard, it's much easier for you to say no. So the other thing is there's a couple other books. Difficult Conversations and Crucial Conversations are really good books on how to deal with difficult conversations. So the next book is Helping, and it's by Edgar Schein, and he coined the phrase corporate culture. And so he's been doing this stuff for a long time, and he lays out some of the backgrounds. And one of them is that societies are stratified. So there's, people who are up and people who are down. And we believe that behavior is reciprocal. And so with that, if you ask for help, you're taking status down. And so no one wants to ask for help. Everybody wants to be the one who's asked for help. And so, that really doesn't work. And so for you to get ahead, you kind of have to learn how to ask for help, to take that step down. And just sort of take a look at this and put it into your daily life, and just see how see how it reacts for you, just to understand it. So there's 3 roles. One's the expert, the doctor, and the process consultant. And we want to be the expert and the doctor, but what people want from us is really the process consultant. And so I can save you the read of this book, and that 90% of the time, your job is to be the process consultant. And so, what does that mean? Well, it means when someone's at the whiteboard and they ask you to come and help them, they don't really want you to help. They want you to be there and stand next to them. They want you to take over. They want you to just jog their memory so they can solve it. So you're there just helping them solve something. That's what most people want. And so which role do you use? And so I talked about that, and we try to use the other 2. And so we want to be this process consultant. We want to do humble inquiry. We want to be able to do listening, right? And so in the class, we often go through this process and do this speaking thing. And it's quite interesting just in the 2 minutes, how much you see with the listening, and how you feel about how hard it is to listen and how hard it is to talk, kind of thing. And so this is a summary of that. And so you can see that in the presentation. And so in the 7 principles of effective helping, the main thing is that, the helper never has all the answers, right? We're really trying to be with the other person more than not, so they can solve their own problems, right? And that's what you want to do. So the don't be an asshole is kind of obvious, but I'm serious. There's a book, an online quiz. There's a mindset about this. And, there it is. Bob Sutton wrote this book quite a while ago. It's still super popular. And another book, in the book, chapter 1 of Managing Humans, this guy's I think he's a CTO of Slack. Don't be a prick. And we've all lived through this, right? We want to be really going hard at things, but, we have a team of people. You can never do anything alone these days. So you have to bring people along. And so, again, just supporting that, and mindset book is a really good thing as well. Fixed mindsets with a growth mindset. For most fizzers, inch fizz really isn't a guarantee to make money kind of thing. It's a big risk. And so most of you come to this with a growth mindset. The fixed mindset really isn't that prevalent in fizz, but, it's there. We all have it. So, fixed mindsets, we're always trying to look smart at all costs, whereas growth mindsets, you're willing to learn, you want to get to the base of things. And, so this fixed, don't work too hard. The other one, work hard, effort is key. In the face of setbacks, what do you do under stress, right? And often, we do a little bit of both here. But the main thing we want to be able to do is when you're in that stress, try to embrace your mistakes, or at least embrace other people's mistakes. Confront deficiencies, because that's how you get ahead. You don't get ahead in this problem scenario when you try to hide everything, right? That's typically when your team blows up. And so in a stressful environment, persistent grit and cheer, that's the key, right? So these are our entrepreneurship fundamental skills. And you can do these now. It's a gentle reminder. And that's the end. Thank you. And just as a note on Dr. Waltham's bit, right? All right.